If you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. That Kate Daly Show starts now.
Alumni living right now. They're scattered over 125 countries and about...
Whoop. That was the wrong clip. What the heck is going on here?
For the world.
Okay, so I lost my clip. Sorry. It happens. I had Larry Fink. Actually, I don't know what happened to it now. Dang it. What happened to it? That was Melissa from yesterday.
Nobody really...
Okay, well, I don't know where it went, actually. Larry Fink. Where is he? Let's see.
Indiana.
Okay.
Prince.
Interesting. Okay, so it happens. I'm live. What can I do? Okay, so I'm going to try to play this. I don't know if it's going to work because apparently I'm having a tough time today, but I'm going to try. So let me see if I can play this because it is that interesting. Here we go.
Power.
Here we go.
The world is going to be short power. Short power. And to power these data companies, you cannot have just this intermittent power like wind and solar. You need dispatchable power because you can't turn off and on these data centers. The world is going to be short power. Short power. And to power these data companies, you cannot have just this intermittent power like wind and solar. You need dispatchable power because you can't turn off and on these data centers.
So
the world is going to be short power.
Larry Fink.
Short power.
The Finkster.
And
we're going to be short power. Today's show is going to be a little shorter than normal, but I want to take back our power and how we're going to do that. This is an important show, actually. So we have the Larry Finkster Davos comment of basically the power situation is going to be where you, the resident, the citizen, however you want to say it, will be basically shortchanged, and your power will be shortened. Your utilities will be second or third on the totem pole of importance, your water, your electricity, because the centers for the data are going to be taking this over, and they are going to become the top spot in this. Now, he talked about this at Davos, which means that we are in trouble and it's coming. And about a decade ago, we started warning about smart meters. And I used to represent some of the different utility companies on the air locally. And it was crazy because when I started doing that, they started going nuts. They did not like this. They did not like me talking about smart meters. And of course, I got accused of being a conspiracy theorist and the same old jargon, blah, blah, blah. And we were saying, look, they're going to use this for control. This is the mechanism of control for the future. And this is why they want you to install them. And I think a lot of people looked at us like, you're crazy, you're nuts. And the only reason I say that is because I got a lot of mail about it. But this is just a good way to be smart about your meter. I mean, it was ridiculous. And we kept saying over and over again, like, this is not okay. Something about this is very wrong. But now you can see the writing on the wall, just like you always can with these kinds of things. And whenever we say something like a decade ago, we always get called crazy. And then it comes into fruition that, hey, this is why they wanted it this way. But that's fine. So I mean, I'm used to being called names. So in this light, your electricity, your water is going to be low on the totem pole. And that's why he's saying what he's saying. Here it is again. Listen to what he's actually saying, because this is via the smart meters. It's letting the cat out of the bag. The data centers need massive amounts of stable power, and they can't rely on wind and solar, which we already knew the truth. But here you go.
The world is going to be short power.
Short power. The world's going to be short power.
And to power these data companies, you cannot have just this intermittent power like wind and solar.
Oh, yeah.
You need dispatchable power.
You need dispatchable
You
power.
can't turn off and on these data centers.
You can't turn them off and on. And so what they're doing is they're starting to tell you that your utilities are going to go up. So we need to prepare for that. That's what these are the kinds of things that we can prepare for now and not wait until the future of this happens to us, but rather take some time. Okay. So yeah, I know. How did they, Deborah says, this is so messed up. How do they get away with it? You know, they tell us their plans long before they do things. Over and over again. And this is why people like to say I'm crazy. I could try to tell people things. I try to say things, you know. Okay, it's just how it goes. So I also promised you today that I would play some what disinformation looks like. Okay, now people are not going to like this. Why? Because this is on Candace's show. But I just want to show you. So she had and the reason I'm playing this today is so that we can get back to getting the power back in how we listen to people and who we trust and yada, yada, yada. Now, keep in mind, I like a lot of what Candace is saying, and a lot of it's truth. Most of what she's saying is truth, but there are things being left out of the equation. Okay. So let me describe what I'm saying. We need to get smarter, and we need to be able to identify what disinformation looks like, so that we don't blindly follow people. Okay. So you're always on your guard. You're always on your guard, because that's what happens when we have people that are still part of the club who tell us things, and we can't, you just have to know that we have to be smarter. Okay. So here's Candace, and she's interviewing Kevin Shipp. Now, I've had Kevin Shipp on the show. Now, I had him on the show probably back in like 2017, I'm guessing, probably 9 years ago. Jeez. And he's ex-CIA, but you know, when you're ex-CIA, you're not actually ex-CIA, you're CIA. They just send you out on the circuit. Sorry, I have hiccups, to speak. So I'm going to play a clip. She's asking him about false flags. Okay. And I'm going to tell you when the disinformation comes, right? I know you're already going to know this, but this is for people that don't understand this. Okay. So here's Kevin Shipp answering Candace's questions.
Target for elimination.
JFK.
I think that was a CIA hit, and they may have employed some mafia connections to carry it out, because that was their mafia assassination
Exactly.
program.
And LBJ was very involved in all that in Dallas. And so
He was an evil man.
He was an evil man. Okay, what about Pearl Harbor?
They knew the attack was coming. They knew
That's
where
true.
it was going to happen in Pearl Harbor and when. And they told no one, and they let it happen on purpose. That's from the commander of the Pacific Fleet. I would say that's a pretty credible witness. So yeah, that was a false
They've
flag.
admitted that. They admitted they heard it was going to happen.
They
and
knew.
You know, how else were you going to get Americans to be on the side of this war that had nothing to do
Exactly.
with us? Which brings us to 9/11. Your opinion?
Here we go.
My opinion, as a criminal investigator, as a former CI officer, 9/11 was not the act of a bunch of poorly flight trained terrorists that executed an unbelievably meticulous piloting of those aircraft. Even pilots, there's pilots for 9/11 Truth now, and they say we could not have done that. Experienced pilots could not have made those maneuvers.
Now, that is true. What he just said was true. Okay. It was a meticulously crafted event. Yes. But now I want you to hear what else he has to say. This is Kevin Shipp, who's supposed to be ex-CIA.
Not possible. And then we go to the passport issue, and we go to the Tower 7, which was a controlled demolition.
Obviously.
You talk to any structural engineer.
True.
And I have. Well, that was a controlled demolition.
True.
I mean, it was perfect. And the fact, I think George W. Bush blacked out, I think it was 40 pages of the 9/11 report dealing with Saudi Arabia.
True.
And the report came out, the 9/11 Commission report.
Did you guys just hear that? He just mentioned Saudi Arabia. Okay. Because that was the second narrative that wasn't honest coming out of our government. Okay. Did you hear that? He just mentioned Saudi Arabia. Okay.
40 pages of the 9/11 report dealing with Saudi Arabia. And the report came out, the 9/11 Commission report came out, but those pages were blacked out and he refused to
True.
unredact them. So what, wait a minute, this report was supposed to be for the American people on what happened. And you blacked all these pages out? What in the world?
Mm.
I do not think that it was a bunch of poorly trained or untrained terrorists that did it. I think there was another source behind it. I think it was intentional. And I'm going just from a criminal investigative perspective.
Do you notice how he's beating around the bush a lot? The lead up, well, I'm this and I'm that, and this, it's a lot of lead up to try to get to the nuts and bolts of what he's saying.
Just looking at the evidence, what evidence we have, that was an intentional act.
Okay.
And it would fall right into the MO that you and I are talking about. Horrible event, because human life does not matter to the shadow government deep state, or especially the CIA. It does not matter. They're pawns on their chessboard. They don't care that 3,000 people were horribly killed that day. But it achieved the aim of gutting the U.S. Constitution, bringing in the horrific Patriot Act.
That is true. But who did it? He never tells you. He never says.
The CIA unthinkable authority for secret prisons and torture beyond waterboarding and secret renditions and all of that. The FBI, the ability to spy on Americans came out of the Patriot Act. So it was the perfect national security state energizer that the Patriot Act was. And 70 of the congressmen and senators that read the Patriot Act didn't even read it. They just signed off on it without it.
Yes, because it was prepared long before. So he didn't mention the PNAC agreement from 2 years prior to 9/11, which basically laid out a plan to have another Pearl Harbor event that would bring us into 20 years of war or more of war and reconstruction contracts. He didn't mention the Mossad. He didn't say that the CIA and the Mossad did it. He basically alluded to Saudi Arabia carefully, because that was the second narrative given out by our government. Okay. And he didn't allude to the fact that people on the ground said those were military planes going into the building. It was not it wasn't the United and the American Airlines planes. Okay. He didn't talk about that. He didn't, again, say Mossad. Okay. We know a deep state runs the government of Israel. Okay. So hijacking it. So, and the poor people of Israel, are they aware? So was it the Mossad and the CIA carefully crafted, even made sure our Air Force was doing another drill? Yeah. A drill that was exactly like 9/11. This was carefully, meticulously crafted event that really had nothing to do with Saudi Arabia. But Saudi Arabia is the go-to after you don't believe that the guys in the caves did it. Okay? Carefully. So he hit a lot of truth, although he didn't go all the way. Okay. Now, on the heels of that, all right, Candace. I get asked about Candace all the time. What are my true thoughts on Candace? So when it comes to Candace, I will say that she is a person who was put into Turning Leaf, her and Charlie, to head the multi-million-dollar Turning Leaf project. Okay. To influence a lot of people across the country. It's heavily organized and funded. She was put as the head so that on the right, I'm just going to be blunt, we don't look like we're racist, okay, which we're not racist, but they wanted to make sure to put a face on it that said we're not racist, okay? Now, she was hired to do that job. There are things there that have never really made sense about Candace. Now, I will say this. This is hard because this one is, I know that she's saying a lot of truth. Okay. And I think that's really hard for people because they're going, hey, she is defying, she is doing what people won't do. That is true, but you could say that about a lot of people that have large audiences. If they don't want you there and you're saying too much, they censor you, discredit you, or eliminate you. Those are the three. Okay. So here, here's the, oh, sorry. I'm just trying to find something. I'm trying to find something for you. So Candace is an interesting one because it's meant to be very confusing. Okay. Right now, you're supposed to be ultra confused about who's telling the truth and who's not, and who's who and what's going on. You know, you were lied to about Charlie Kirk. Okay. And we know that there's obviously something that happened there that is completely not true. What is the one thing that Candace never talks about, though? There is something that Candace never, ever says. Okay. Now, she's saying that Israel probably took him out. Could that be possible? But why isn't she ever mentioning the fact that it possibly did not happen? Now, I'm saying that because it is something that we should entertain. The crime scene was cemented over, and there are tunnels under that crime scene. Okay. There wasn't any blood on the way to the car. There should have been. It was a big wound. There should have been, people should have had blood on them. The ground should have been bloody. Okay. That didn't happen. There was no funeral. There was no burial. We don't know where he's buried. And Erica keeps that and says, I don't want to tell anyone. Okay. Why? We know where people are buried. Why can't you know that? It's silly. The magic bullet theory. The bullet never left his body. There's a lot of things, right? There's the camera behind him. A lot of people were like, is that a hologram camera? It's really weird. The other cameras, they didn't have a problem with those, but they did have a problem with this one particular camera where we never saw the footage. But this one particular camera that was automatically eliminated. They were more worried about the camera, in my view, than they were Charlie. Was Charlie's marriage arranged? I think so. She comes from a DOD family. She's been involved in some DOD projects. Yes. He wanted his wife home with the kids, and he wanted her raising the kids, and he's for traditional values. And now she's 24/7 on camera, 24/7 wearing a sequin suit, doing a fireworks show for his memorial. Yeah, something's wrong. Not really crying, never upset, always smiling. Yeah, something's wrong. Always mad at anyone that asks a question, but forgives the patsy, Tyler Robinson, immediately. Something's wrong. So why isn't Candace, if she's telling all the truth, why isn't she representing an idea or even contemplating the idea that it didn't happen? Has she done that? Have I missed that? It is weird. Okay. It is strange. I went on the Alex Jones show. Alex was asking me about it because Tyler Robinson is from my city. Remember, we weren't shown the footage of him planning this or plotting this or going up. There would have been gas receipts. There would have been cameras all over the gas stations and all over the school telling you that he was casing the joint to figure out what building to be on top of, since he didn't live there and it was 4 hours away. So all the things we didn't see. Okay. And the weirdness of Kash Patel and the governor of Utah acting so strange about this entire thing. Mike Lee now, Senator Mike Lee, who I told you about in 2016, he is not what he appears to be. Right again. I was right about Tim Ballard. I was right about Mike Lee. Mike Lee is calling for a public execution. Erica Kirk is saying, yeah, Charlie loved the Constitution, but let's get this guy executed. Mike Lee asking for a public execution. We haven't even had a trial. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Public execution. Okay. So the narrative that Mike Lee is pumping, because he takes orders from the deep state, that's how he stays in power, and so he's not a constitutionalist. He's not really a conservative. And haven't you noticed over the last decade that all he ever did was bipartisan bills with people like Feinstein? Okay. He's not as conservative as you think he is. So here's the deal with that. He's calling for a public execution. Why do they want him publicly executed so fast? It's only been 3.5 months. What's going on here? Okay. I talked about this yesterday on the show. So you're not being told that it maybe didn't happen. When I was on the Alex Jones show, I should finish that thought. When I was on the Alex Jones show, Alex kept saying, but you think it happened. You think it happened, but you know it happened. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I know people that were there. So as they saw him go down, I don't have a reason to think it didn't happen. But the more that comes out, I'm actually wondering if it actually did happen. Okay. So why are we not even entertaining that thought? Because it seems to me on our right alternative media, that thought is not welcome. You can discuss any theory, but not that one. Why? Shouldn't you be able to discuss any theory? You should. Okay. So what is her purpose? What is her purpose? You have to kind of wonder, okay, well, if she is part of the club, she might not even realize she's part of the club. You never know with this kind of thing. So I'm not saying that she's evil or terrible or anything like that, because she is saying a lot of truth, and your truth meter will be satisfied when you're listening to it, because you're like, that makes sense. And that makes sense. And that makes sense. I get it. But you always, just like what Kevin Shipp just did, okay, ex-CIA, he'll tell you 9 points that are true, but not tell you the 10th point. He did not tell you who did it, did he? No. And I do believe the Mossad and the CIA carefully crafted that. He won't mention the Mossad. He only mentions Saudi Arabia. Okay. So the other things he said were true. So your truth meter is like, oh yeah, that's true. Okay. So Candace was hired by a private equity firm in Manhattan at the age of 22 with no degree. She was vice president of that by 24. How does that work? Okay. There's something wrong with that. All right. So then she was involved in this marketing agency, blog written by her. Okay. And then, of course, she became a conservative overnight, but then recently just got baptized. So it wasn't like the Christian thing was huge in her life. Okay. But turning point, pretty Christian. It's just, there's some odd things. Okay. So she launched a website in 2016 called Social Autopsy. It looks like a CIA front. She became this conservative overnight with fellow people in the program, like Milo and Mike Cernovich. Okay. So then she immediately goes up the ranks. She's involved with PragerU, but PragerU, there's some things there. I like PragerU. I've had Prager on the show. It's unfortunate too what has happened to him, right? He's incapacitated pretty much, except for his voice. There are a lot of truthful things that Dennis says. I've interviewed him several times. But there's always a but, okay? The Daily Wire and the PragerU, these are controlled assets. So you have to kind of look at everything. You got to look at the whole picture. Ben Shapiro too, okay? Believe me, a lot of these people were in on the COVID narrative. The COVID narrative, I saw Glenn Beck, I saw all of them hunker down in a bunker, the fear. And I'm out there going from day one going, this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a scam, this is a lie. They're lying because all the media is in on it. And I know all these people are smart enough to know when the media is all in on it and giving you the same narrative, something's wrong. Okay. So anyway, you go back to her career and she rose in the ranks really fast. Okay. And so there's going to be a lot of truth given because she has to fill that for people. Otherwise, who's going to listen? If you're just like Glenn Beck or you're just like the others, you're going to say exactly what they're saying. You can't say exactly what everyone else in the project is saying. You have to be separate. Now, I'm not talking about leftist media, bought, sold, ignorant asses. Okay. I'm not talking about the robotics that come out of the left. I'm talking about the right for a reason, because we are so misled. It's scary. It's scary how on our right, I'm an ultra conservative. I'm more conservative than anyone I know. I'm very conservative. Okay. I love our Constitution. I love our country. I want it to recognize the CIA stronghold. I wanted to recognize its intelligence racket and the deep state are running the country. The CIA is kind of like the workhorse of the deep state. Okay. They're the ones that get stuff done. Okay. But the deep state runs this country right now. They run all the countries right now. We run Iran. We run Russia. We run China. We've been paying for them for years. They are not separate autonomous enemies. Okay. And I don't know why people still believe that. Look at the writing on the wall. So our job to take our power back, if that's what the show's about today, okay, is going to be taking our power back and realizing that Project Chaos is Project Chaos, that you are supposed to be extremely confused and that the right is supposed to be extremely divided over what is real and what is not, over what's getting done and what is not, over what's being said by Trump and what is not, over everything. You are supposed to feel on edge. You're supposed to feel chaotic. You're supposed to feel like, what is real here? Because I thought that this was real. I thought that was real. Wait a minute. It seems like everyone's switching sides. It's odd. What's going on here? This is exactly how you're supposed to feel right now. It's part of it. It's part of the dance. Okay? So when we talk about taking back our power, how do we do that? Yesterday I talked about with Melissa, okay? And she was talking about the good things that RFK has done. Have there been some good things that he has brought to light or done? Okay, I can agree with that. It's not bad to say RK has done XYZ. That's okay. But like I said yesterday, when you're throwing a couple of buckets on a huge raging inferno, you're not solving the issue at the root. You're solving superfluous things, but you're not solving it. So how do you take back your power? Well, when it comes to red dyes, you just don't buy food with red dye in it. Okay? Because you know better, because you've done some research. We're not designed to be stupid. Okay? So we don't wait for government to take charge of what we put in our pie hole. we do it. Okay? So this isn't hard. This isn't tough. Okay? So you worry about, or we post about school boards. I have seen some pretty ignorant, awful school boards. I remember in 2020, all of them got together and via their lawyer in my town. Okay, I live in Southern Utah. Via their lawyer's like, yeah, 1905 smallpox gives us the ability to tell you your child has to be shot up, okay, with our vaccines. And I was like, no, it didn't. That case wasn't about that. In 1905, the case was actually about the $5 they were charging if you chose not to get the shot or not to get their remedy, okay, the smallpox. So it wasn't about the government getting to mandate that you get the shot. It was that they said that the guy had to pay $5. He still never got the dose for smallpox. But it was about the $5. And no one understood this. So the school boards, so idiotic. The school board members, ignorant to, what level is insane. They're such lefties, okay? It's all about control. Remember the Toronto Protocols? 1967, we will take control of your children, okay? So they go off on a false premise. They tell all the parents they have the ability to demand these things. So how do you take back your power? You get your kids out of school. You can do that. Get your kids out of the school system. Take back what you put in your mouth. Don't wait for government to do it. You can't, because they're not going to do it. That's the memo today. Okay. Have you ever thought about buying historic sites labeled historic where they can't mess with you? People buying, like, let's say a ghost town because then the government doesn't have the reins on it that that they normally take control of. You know, I come from a valley of people that I find heinous, right, in local government, and they're liars. They just pretend to be conservative. And all you have to do as a simple test is to look at your tax bill. Okay. Taxes went through the roof. Utilities are through the roof. Everything's through the roof, but you're still supposed to believe they're conservative. Okay. Anyway, that's going on in every city in America. So how do you take back your power? Well, partly you can do that through right now you might not be able to change, like, let's say, the data centers controlling your smart meter, controlling your utilities and rationing out utilities, and you being charged up the wazoo for them. That's coming for sure. There's no doubt in my mind. I've been saying this for years. So what are you doing right now to prepare for that? That's the bigger question. What can you do? What moves can you make on your home, solar or whatever? What can you do to combat the cost that you're going to be charged? That this is why they're trying to outprice you. Okay. They're trying to make it so that even if you think it's affordable right now, it's going to be completely unaffordable to own a home. Okay. Because of the prices of the taxes, because of the prices of the utilities, it's going to be very, very, very difficult with all the other costs that you incur. So how can you prepare for that? How can you prepare within your family? What strategy you have to maybe get family members together under one roof to help with that? Or how are you going to do it? Okay. There are things we can think of. I know that we are very, very good at ingenuity. So I know we can think of things, right? So there's that, right? Right now, you can't control your corrupt county commissioners, just like I can't control mine when it comes to voting. This is why I was censored off the air. I kept talking about our voting being completely taken over by the software system. They don't change the votes going in, they change the votes going out when they get counted. So since 2004 specifically. So what can we do? What can we do about that? This is why I want to tell you this story. I thought this was really kind of interesting story. And you're going to think I'm crazy and weird for saying this, but here you go. There's this guy called the Squatter Hunter, okay, whose real name is Flash Skelton. He's become known for literally moving into homes occupied by squatters and then making life completely uncomfortable for them, okay, until they finally leave, because legally it's hard to get them out. So he helps return the property to its rightful owner. So his first idea came with this unusual approach after squatters moved into his mother's home in Northern California. And instead of waiting for this long eviction process, because she couldn't continue not to pay the mortgage, right? The mortgage had to be paid by the people that lived there, and they were squatters. So instead of waiting for this, he decided to move in himself and make life so uncomfortable that they chose to leave. So what he did was he protected himself legally by having the homeowner sign a document that said, you can live in this house. Okay, along with the squatters. And then what he would do is he'd blast music 24/7. He'd take over the couch. He'd eat their food, generally just disrupting their comfort. He also wore tactical gear while he did it and carried a non-lethal weapon, right? Like pepper spray, okay, and a stun gun, so that it didn't look like he was out to shoot them. Otherwise, he could have been arrested, okay? So he used these things to his advantage to basically get the people to move. Why am I telling you this story? Why do you think? In that story contains a lot of answers on the way that we can gain control and power back. Okay? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. If you want to gain control and power back as a person that lives in the United States of America, an American, okay? You start thinking outside the box. you start realizing there are things that you can do. Now, in that situation, people felt powerless, right? You would feel powerless if you had squatters in your home. You would wait for the legal system to do what it did. What he did was ingenious, actually. It was taking a move, making a move, and then saying, oh yeah, okay, well, if the legal system isn't going to help me in this situation, because they don't usually help the owner, they're usually more in favor of the squatter, let's be real, then what could I do? I'm not powerless as a person. I do have power. And that's exactly what the message is today. You do have power. You have to think outside the box. Think about it in these terms. We know what's coming. Larry Finkster, the Fink, said at Davos, look, we're going to shorten people's power. We're going to do things that enable people to not be able to afford the shortened power we give them. They're going to utilize it through smart meters. They're going to continue to put up 6G. They're going to continue to put up dangerous levels of EMF. They're going to continue to do all of these things. What can we possibly do? This is the question I get asked about the most. And I understand why. There are things I'm not going to say today. I'll just let your imagination run wild with some of the things that you could possibly think of. The reason I say that is because in East Germany, I've said this before, and I had a wonderful guest on that described the situation in East Germany. If you look at history, history will not tell you what actually happened in East Germany to oust the communist control, but it was people walking around their churches in silence. They walked around the churches in groups of like 10,000. The government was then made powerless because the optics of shooting all those people would not have bode well for them at the time. And other countries would have come in. They would have had to, because the optics would have been that bad. And so the people silently, not going to the Capitol, you never go to where the government is, ever. And you never bring your cell phone with you for tracking, okay? What do? You figure out ways to draw attention silently, if you have to. Or like this guy, he just did it through ingenious means. What you do is you figure out something else that can work. We right now should be working together on the down low to be able to put networks together for people that do not want to become part of the system. You will not be able to fly. And I think in the future, go state to state without the proper IDs, digital ID, okay? We will be tracked. Everything about us will be tracked. As the dollar slides away, we are going to be subject to this overreaching, very evil, deep state manufactured surveillance. No one's doing anything about it. So if you think government's saving us right now because of who's in office, that is not happening. Everything's marching forward. So then what do? How do we create places in the United States where we can live together, people of the same mindset, where we can actually get back our power? Okay. Now, when I say get back our power, you are powerful right now. You are powerful right now. So don't wait to get back your power. Use your power now. Constantly bring up the fact that we do not have paper ballots in this country that can be overseen by volunteers, that we do not need a software system. The hanging Chad was a lie. The hanging Chad was a lie to get you to buy into the software system as the solution. Okay? Just like we own Iraq. Same kind of lies, okay? Same kind of lies. We own Iraq. There's no doubt in my mind. So as the media perpetuates the lies, courtesy of the government narrative that they're told to perpetuate, how can we communicate with each other, not on cell phone, not through surveillance, but also communicate with each other? You should be thinking of these things. people write me all the time. They're like, hey, I have this idea, but don't say this on the show. I don't want the government to know what I have planned. And I'm like, dude, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. So when I don't disclose everything on the show, that's why. Why would you let them know what you're doing? It's stupid. I can't do that. But I can get you to the point where you're thinking in those terms. Look at what the squatter hunter did. Okay? The squatter hunter went into a home and made and signed a document that said, I'm allowed to be here along amidst you squatters, and I'm going to make life so miserable that you leave. Legal system didn't even have to come in. This is the kind of stuff that we need to do. If you see somebody like, well, anybody in our alt-right media, I hate calling it that because that's what they want us to call it. But we tend to think of conservative media as untouched and leftist media as the spoiled fruit. That isn't true. Leftist media and right media are pretty much owned by the same people, just like CNN and Fox News. All owned by the same. All organized to give you narrative shifts in that 10% of false understanding. When you hear a lot of truth from somebody that has a large audience that's still alive, okay, hasn't been, well, Breitbart was Breitbarted, but when they're still alive, then you have to question what they're not saying and why aren't they saying it? When Kevin Shipp diverted attention, ex-CIA my ass, converted attention or took the attention away from the powers that be and mentioned Saudi Arabia and just basically kind of went around the edges of truth with 9/11, ask yourself, what are we missing here? What's not being mentioned over and over again? If Candace isn't going to say, hey, did it not happen? Ask yourself why that is. Why wouldn't you I'll entertain it because I'm not bought. I'll entertain any theory because I know we're lied to that much. So I appreciate what she's doing because there is a lot of truth being told. But at the same time, you have to kind of keep your guard up to what people say and what they don't. Let me give you another example, okay? Because I know this is so hard for people to understand because this is the question I get asked the most. Who do I trust? Why are you finding somebody like that? That's big on the scene. That's my question. I don't trust anyone big on the scene, ever. And I have been on the right side of media for 16 years. Why don't I trust anybody? Ask yourself that question. Why do I not trust anyone? Do I need to spell it out? Look, here's Tucker's post, okay? I want to give you Tucker's post about Russia. Here we go. This is Tucker Carlson. Prepare yourselves because this is a global headline. Russia is actively considering the use of nuclear weapons against Europe, not against Kiev, against Europe, specifically the UK and Germany. Just taking out of the UK and Germany with nuclear weapons, that's a fact. Okay, watch the interview we did with longtime political advisor to Putin and one of the most famous public intellectuals in Russia who's been around for about 35 years, advised Yeltsin, who they kept drunk, by the way, the CIA. But anyway, Boris Yeltsin. Anyway, 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, and in that interview, he says point blank, yes, if the Ukraine war continues at this tempo for a year or two more, we speaking on behalf of the Russian government, on behalf of his friend Putin, or at least someone who's very familiar with Putin's thinking, we, Russia, will eliminate the UK and Germany with nuclear weapons. Now, that's a headline. I wish I had one of those cricket sounders. Do you believe that? Do you believe that horse crap? We've heard Russia, like Marsha is going to come and get us. They're going to come and get everybody. They're going to come after everybody. When was the last time you saw that happen? Who believes there was a Cold War when Russia lost so much in World War II and that they were able to conduct a Cold War right away? Okay. Didn't happen. It was a ruse to keep the CIA, give the CIA a job on paper. Look, this is what I think is really hard. People go, but Tucker's not on Fox News anymore. Yeah, it's a project. They carefully take Tucker and they put him somewhere else to make him look like he is the purveyor of truth. They have him say enough true things that are sort of not being said to make you believe that everything he says is going to be truthful. It's not. It's not. Look what he's saying about Russia. Russia's actively considering the use of nuclear weapons against Europe. Really? Do you honestly think that would work? And do you really believe that the nuclear weapons story? Because they've been using it for 70 years. When they use a story for 70 years, do you believe it's true? You've never seen any proof of it. No terrorist has ever gotten a hold of a nuke and nuked a city. Wouldn't that be the first thing they'd do? Wouldn't that be it? Wouldn't you, if you were a terrorist, wouldn't you get a hold of a nuke? Wouldn't be that hard. They're traveling all over. We send them to Russia. We send them all over the place. We allow countries to have them. It's the biggest BS storyline I just can't wrap my brain around. I just, look, I used to believe in it too. I used to believe that was true. Oh, the nukes. Oh, World War III. Oh, the nukes. Will we have World War III? According to scripture, yes, we will. Of course. Will it come via nuke? I don't know. I don't think so, actually. I don't know if we actually have the capability. I think we've been lying about it for a long time. I think that's why in the test, of course, there's lots of movies about it. Wink, wink. Hollywood selling it to you. But in the test, there's only like one picture of it that's kind of grainy. Yeah. So shouldn't we question that? Shouldn't we question it when no bad guy, even though bad guys have run amok? Look at ISIS with their matching tennis shoes and white outfits and Toyota trucks, carefully crafted to make it look like the Middle East is overrun with ISIS. Did we construct ISIS, the CIA? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So could they be lying about the capabilities for so long to us? We were hiding under desks in the 50s. We're still hiding under desks. Just looks a little different. Maybe you should start questioning that. Have you ever heard somebody on the right question it? No, you haven't. Why? Why? Shouldn't everything be subject to questions? Why does Glenn Beck say you're anti-American if you question the moon landing, which we had no technology for, or at the time, nor do we now. That's why they haven't revisited. So, okay, and you're not allowed to question 9/11. Why? As an American, you should question everything. You should question everything. What are we not touching? What are we not saying? We're not talking about false flags as much anymore. We're getting them all the time. Look at Tyler Robinson, total patsy false flag. Did you ever see a picture of him with the gun killing Charlie Kirk? They have video. They have cameras. They showed you running across the building, but they can't show you him sitting there with the gun. Look, all the things we're not seeing, all the questions we're not asking, all the stuff not talked about, because there's parameters. There's parameters. I don't think Candace can entertain the question of, did it actually happen with Charlie Kirk? Were we shown a magic trick? Were we lied to? Did we see something we don't understand what we actually saw? Could be. Am I saying that definitively? No, I can't yet. But I am asking the question, which will not be done on our right side. We will not question nukes. We will not question Russia as the bad guy. We will not question Iran as a bad guy. But we did the coup and the Shah in the 1950s and the 1930s. What? How did we lose control of Iran? And why is the MEK, the opposing force, what is that? What is the word for that? when we instill somebody to look like they are the force to be reckoned with. Oh, I can't think of the word. Anyways, the MEK is headed by a guy who suddenly got out of jail time. Long sentence. Suddenly, poof, jail time went away and he became the leader of MEK. Huh. Was there a trade-off in that arrangement? You play this part in the game of theater and it'll look like Iran has this opposing force, right? That they're fighting for democracy. We control Iran. And I think we control Russia. And I think we've controlled them for a long time. And I think that's why the deep state sent the Bolsheviks in to get rid of the Russian royalty. And they did so craftily, right? And this is why Britain stood down and let it happen to their cousins. And this is why if you really go and look at the shifts that happened in World War II, what the UN devised, what the UN was most interested in, what did they create? Go down that rabbit hole, okay? What did the UN want desperately, and why did the UN come out of World War II? What was the purpose of that? We've had war ever since, so they're not an agency of peace. So when you really go down that rabbit hole, you're going to find that the deep state operates under these mechanisms, and this is how they also control media. Tell you 90% truth, 10% disinfo. Oh, controlled opposition. I was trying to think of the word. The controlled opposition. So this is our problem first off, okay, we have to get to a point where the people aren't idiotic. And I mean this in the nicest way. I don't know how you can be nice about that, but I do mean this in a nice way. We have a lot of idiots. We have a lot of people that can't see it. We have a lot of people out there that think that some parts of the world are untouched by the deep state. I don't know how. It's true. This is where we're at. So people get smarter. They realize the power they have. And then they start to take back the power that has been taken from them. Realize the power. Get smart. Realize the power you have. Exercise that power right now. Right now. Get your kids out of the school system. Watch what goes into your pie hole. Don't put unhealthy crap and seed oils and red dyes into your body. Stop taking their solution that rhymes with Mimo for the big C. I have to say that or YouTube will censor me. Stop doing that because 97% of the people are ending up dead. It's not a good odd. Don't accept that as that's all we can do in 2026. We just don't know. When you have a degenerative disease, maybe look at parasites as the problem. Do some parasite cleanses. Do them safely, but do them. We never talk about it. We only say, listen to the cabal. Okay? They're still trying to tell you on our right that COVID was a product of China. That's untrue. We own China, and we've been paying China for a long time. We've been giving them a lot of money to own them for a long time. Okay? They're made to look like our fiercest competitor and the stealer of things, but actually we own them. So when we blame it on China, remember that we're blaming it on China, but it's not we placed it there because we wanted it far away from the United States so that our CIA intelligence racket, evil racket would not be blamed. Okay. It was just an easy scapegoat. And that's why they put up with it so well. So well. Yeah. China's the scapegoat. So COVID was a lie the entire time. It was a lie the entire time. All it was flu. All it was, and you have different varying degrees of flu, and people will always die of flu. People will always die of really bad, things that they get. But we gave it a label called COVID, and it was fake. It was just a label. That's all it was. And no one on the right told you that. What did they do? They went to China. See, that's how you know. So how do we take back our power? You realize the power you have. You exercise the power. You do not wait for government to save you. They won't. They're not designed that way. It's always been, and goes back to the nature of man. Okay. Goes back to the nature of man. We know what government will do. It's kind of like this. This is the question that's never asked. We always talk about the politicians. Okay. The politicians are corrupt. Yeah. The system is designed to either corrupt them or take on corrupt politicians. You're never going to get the truth, and you're never going to get somebody standing up in politics anymore. It will not happen. They'll be eliminated if they try. I'm being completely honest with you. You will not find somebody honest in politics that is actually a patriot. Can't happen, won't happen. I don't care what side of the aisle you're talking about. So as a person, if you can't control that mechanism of the politicians and how corrupt and ignorant they are, then what? Control the media companies that can still deliver you the truth about the politicians and give the politicians a run for the money, a run for their money. Nobody does that. You're letting the media companies decide what you're going to hear. You're letting the media companies that are heavily controlled by the CIA to have all reign in information. If you want to stop corrupt politicians, then you own a media company and you put out information about what they're doing to the people so the people are aware, so the people are informed. That is your stopgap. That is what you support as a person. This is what, as a person, you can do. A lot of people on our right with a lot of wealth. Are you constructing a media company? Are you dictating what gets told in that media company? Are your commercials about the politicians, what they're doing, and exposing it? Are you exposing the takeover of land and utility and the data center lies? Are you telling, what side are you on? Because I know media people that own media stations, some of the most ignorant people I've ever met, and bought by favors by politicians. So if that's the case, be somebody that isn't bought by a politician, and be somebody that's not ignorant, and be somebody that can put out on the airwaves what's true so that people can actually get informed, because the spirit in you, God's spirit, will tell you when you're hearing truth. And it will kind of be jarring sometimes because you're going to go, I can't put my finger on it, but something's not right. I'm hearing truth, but something's not right. Okay. The only way that we can get the people, the masses, my husband calls them the asses, the masses, to be informed is to inform them. So instead of trying to change a corrupt system that develops politicians into corrupt people, go a different route, own media companies. Why are we not doing that? Why do we never talk about it? Why aren't we constructing more private schools, more schools that aren't involved with the government at all, more co-ops? Why aren't we getting older people to read to kids and do that instead of putting them in government-controlled preschools? Okay. Why are we not telling people, hey, you know what? If you have an older person, instead of putting them in a home, right, in a nursing home, why not rent part of your property out to somebody that would look after your loved one, a relative, even a stranger, maybe in a trailer, who knows? And maybe that piece of property can be something where not only the rental helps to control the price of the property and the taxes, because maybe the elderly person can't pay that either, but anything to not put them in a nursing home where the vaccinations and where all the guinea pig stuff's going on to kill your loved one in an elderly center. Think outside the box. Who can you get to live in a trailer on that property who would watch after your loved one and also help with the cost? I just think there's so many things we can do, so many ways we can help each other, but we don't. We wait for government to do it. Guess what? They're not. I have the same politicians in office the entire time I've been on the radio locally. Your taxes are higher. You've lost public land. You are paying more for everything. And what do? Hide behind a sneaky, mischievous smile and tell you that they love God and the country and they wear their flag shirt. And you're supposed to believe it. Even though you're looking at your bills, you know things have changed. How do you get away with that? You do it with a smile. You do it with a I love God and I love my country at every turn kind of speech. That's how they get away with it. Holy shite. Are we going to stop doing this? We're going to stop supporting these people in office? Are we going to stop with our, let's take a selfie. I went out to lunch with a county commissioner. Look at me. The county commissioner's terrible. Don't be posting that crap. This is the kind of stuff that as a society, we, for some reason, made these people into rock stars. Own media companies that out them. If you really love this country, if you really want things to change, start thinking outside the box. Start doing things that are like the Squatter Hunter, where you think of a way to combat all this crap that has nothing to do with what they propose as a solution. Stop waiting around to see every day what Trump does or doesn't do, and then having a conversation about whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump. Can we be more idiotic right now? Same thing with Biden, ting-dingling. Same thing with the sham who was Barack Obama. We all sit around talking about whether we like or dislike the president. Who cares? You're not dating them. You're not going to dinner with them. Stop listening to all the things that are supposed to make us complacent. And as citizens, act more. Instead of, I'm waiting around to see what Trump's going to do today to help us. It's like, maybe he's not. Maybe it's talk. Maybe the deep state's going to do what the deep state does. Like in every presidency for 100 freaking years. I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. That's true, LB. Thank you for that comment. Look, we have so many lies. We have so many lies. I've done so many shows on so many lies. First of all, you get smart. Second of all, you realize your power. Third, you act on the power. And fourth, you fight to get that power back. Think outside the box. What can we do right now? What can we do to create systems for the future, to create words that we use in the future, words that signal things in the future, where you'll know exactly where I stand and exactly what I'm about. And I can offer you a word where you will realize who I am, that I am not part of the club. How do we do that? How do we get pirate radio? How do we get radio that's not sanctioned and controlled by the CIA? And I'm going to tell you, over 16 years, I had people sent in to control my show so it would not gain an audience, so it would not gain growth. I'm not kidding. It's that sad. It makes me want to cry. It's that sad. It's that sad. The CIA is in the distribution of the shows in radio. You get somebody that's a patriot that wants to out what's happening. Look around you. In every town and every city in America, you will not find truth being told about the local representation. Why? Because they hire sports guys that give stupid interviews and they tell the politicians how lovely they are. Because the media companies are the gatekeepers. So change the gatekeepers. If you can't control a corrupt system, change the gatekeeping. Get people in who have character. Get people in who love the country. Get people in who know what they're up against and will oust it, will not become part of it. Do you know how many times I've been offered? A lot of growth. If I can stick to scripts, if I can say the right things, if I don't push the limit, if I don't ask the questions that aren't being asked. How sad. How sad. People like me walk away from media because they can't get anywhere. I'm still here today. Like this show, subscribe, listen to what I have to say. I don't care if you disagree with me. You can disagree with me about nukes, about Iran, about Russia, about COVID, about all of it. You can disagree with me every which way. Okay. But listen, at least give me the time to listen to what I have to say. When I called out Tim Ballard back in 2017, when I said something's very wrong here, was I right? Yeah. Did I do a whole show on the government, on the Underground Railroad being owned by the CIA? They refused to go after the big guns, so they tried to show you they were going after the middle guys and that the middle guys were the big guys. They weren't. They wanted you to think they were kicking butt and taking names, but they weren't. They got rid of some low-level people, but they didn't get rid of the roots of the system. Okay? When I said that, what was amazing, how many people came after me. Why? Because I didn't offer them the point of view that they're used to hearing. This is what drives me nuts about people, okay? I'm offering you a different take. I'm offering you a lie that's been told. I'm offering you a exposing of that lie. What do you immediately do? Not you specifically, but people. What do they immediately do? Oh, that's not what I heard. That's not what I've been told. I don't think so. I don't think that's right. Oh, really? Have you spent more than 5 freaking minutes on it? Or did you just look at a Fox News article and an MSN article and a article on Drudge or an article on Breitbart? We'll even go to the right, Breitbart or anywhere. And you did 5 minutes of research and you completely disagree with me. Because why? Because I'm not backing the narrative on the right that you heard. If I poke holes in stuff, at least hear me out. Because I am not going to get out there and tell you something that I don't believe to be true. There's no reason for me to do it. So if I have done the homework and I've done hours on it, hundreds of hours sometimes, if I've done that, at least listen, because I'm trying to tell you something that is not what you've heard and you haven't heard it for a reason. And the reason is because they like to keep the gatekeeping of the information. It cracks me up when I say something to somebody and they go, oh, no, 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 no. I haven't looked into that, but no, I disagree. Why do you disagree? Why do you disagree? If you haven't even looked into it, why would you disagree? A curious person goes, well, let me take that in. Let me listen. Let me hear that out. I did that with the theory that Charlie actually wasn't killed, that we were shown a magic trick. I wanted to hear it out. Why? Because it's intriguing. I want to think, hey, am I looking at something and not understanding it? Am I being bamboozled? We should all have that. We should all have that. We can't save the country. You can't take your power back unless you know your power's been stolen. It's that simple. You can't take it back if you don't think it's gone. Okay? A lot of people don't think their power's been stolen. It's amazing, but it's true. I meet them all the time. And they're always like, oh, you can say that, but I wouldn't say that. No, you know what you should be saying? Say it all, Kate. Say it all. Why? Because we have to hear things that we're not used to hearing to be able to roll those around in our brain and go, could that be true? Are we that lied to? Are they that bad? Oh, I don't know. I think we underestimate Satan. Yeah, it could be that bad. Yeah. That's our problem, guys. We just don't think that we're lied to, but we're not that lied to. I don't agree. I think we're extremely lied to all the time. We are so brainwashed, we don't even realize our own brainwashing. That's why I always leave room for when I'm doing research, and I'm doing it all the time, I'm always asking myself, have I been brainwashed to think a certain thing about this? Should I open my brain to possible new theory on this? And the answer is yes. You can't, or you wouldn't want to take back what you think you haven't lost. That is the truth. And a lot of people are still going, they're kind of like getting kind of, like not prideful, but just, this is my president. And I'm like, does your president have any power, real power? It's okay to like a president. I have nothing against Trump. But I do realize that Trump doesn't have any power and that he's going to make moves that bring us into a region. The Greenland move, if all you're hearing on the right is that we need it for our safety, they overuse that one a lot, don't you think? Why in 2026 do we suddenly need safety when we're the biggest gun on the block? Who's after us? Who's coming after us? We're the biggest one. We could topple anybody in 5 minutes. Remember, you were told that about North Korea too. North Korea's coming to get us. They're going to nuke us. Did that happen? No. So they're told, so right now in 2026, all of a sudden the focus is on Greenland. Not only is it a distraction, but it's actually a good calculated distraction because honestly, you're told that it's for our safety. You have show hosts telling you it's for our safety. It's not. It's actually to create a region. They've been at this for a long time. Okay. But you're always going to be told for a different reason that that's why they want it. Okay. They have to give you a different reason. Otherwise, you're going to be like, why are we doing this? So you have the leftist tribe, the ignorant tribe. You have the right tribe, naive tribe. And you have both tribes on the extreme of that Greenland chatter. What's the truth? The truth is that they've been trying to make us into an EU region, okay, for a long time. The countries lost their autonomy to become the EU, okay? They want to do that here, but they can't do it with a lot of eyeballs on it. So what do? Okay? They try to change the story. And now the story's for your safety. How do you argue with that? National security and safety. They'll always use those two. It's overused. It's overdone. Look through it. It's ridiculous. We're the biggest guy on the blog. I mean, come on, right? It's like believing ISIS was a naturally organized group of people with matching tennis shoes, outfits, and Toyota trucks. You don't really believe that ISIS was a natural organic group of an uprising of terrorists, right? You don't believe that, do you? Come on. We got to get smarter. Mexico's next on the list. You're right, LB. Mexico is next on the list. They're making us into a region without us realizing it. And they're doing it under the guise of safety. That's the truth. And I know that because they've been trying to do this for 60 years. It's hard to do when you got a lot of eyeballs out there. It's hard to do, especially in a place like America. Okay? We've been lied to about a lot of things. Let's look through them together. And I really appreciate you guys today. And thank you for tuning in. At least give it a listen. Okay? You can disagree. I have no problem with that. But right now we have such a hard time detecting truth, and all of us are looking for the biggest media person to listen to that's truthful. I'll tell you right now, I never seek out anyone with a large audience to hear the whole truth. It's always going to be smaller bloggers, posters, people that are small potatoes, because there's a lot of small potatoes out there still telling the truth. And sometimes they can get it wrong. And sometimes maybe I can get it wrong. Who knows? I'm not above that. I have enough humility to understand that I could be wrong. But when everything in my gut is screaming that something's true, and when everything in my gut is telling you, and after all these years in the media, I have stories. I have a lot of stories, actually. And it's tough because people can't hear it. They're like, la, 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 la. I can't hear that my superstar, the person I turn to that I think is a rebel and a renegade, isn't what they told me they are. And I'm like, why in this day and age do you think anyone with a large audience is going to tell you the whole truth? They're going to tell you 90%, and 90% feels good and looks good, but it's still not 100%. For a reason. Misdirection, misinformation. It's how it works. It's how it goes. I will do this on another show, but when you take back your health, okay, and you do things that aren't rhyming with Mimo, if you get the big C, get my ebook on that, telling you how to do it. Telling you what works. katetalks.myshopify.com. Go get it. Have it on your computer for when you need it. Cancer's skyrocketing. Autism is being normalized. We have an autistic Barbie. Okay. Everything's being normalized. No one's asking a single question, especially your white coats. When you get back your health, there are tests you can take, blood tests, that will determine if cancer is coming in early. I'll talk about that on another show. It's part of getting your health back. Okay. You get your health back. You don't go to the white coats trained by the Johns Hopkins Institutes of Medicine, and you start asking better questions and you start understanding about your health, and you don't rely and make some white coat a superstar, even though they don't know anything. You take it back. You pray about things. The only way I'm able to do this is to get help from God. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what to study. I wouldn't know where the truth is. That is my barometer of truth. God. If you don't believe in God, you might want to start. You might want to start. Okay? It's the only barometer in 16 years that I can actually count on that's truthful. That's how it works. All right. So we take back our power. We do all kinds of things. Start thinking outside the box. Start creating a system of people close to you that believe as you believe, where you can maybe go and get places to be and not have to be part of the system. How are you going to travel when the system controls how you travel? Could you live closer to people that you love right now? Could you start that mechanism of getting people to move close to you so that you don't have to travel? Yeah. There are so many things we can do, people, but we're not thinking outside the box. We're not trying to help ourselves in the future. We're not doing anything. We're sitting, we're complacent. That's exactly why they put Trump back in, is because we're going to be complacent. We're not even going to ask a question. Don't let them win on this. Take your power back. You got this. You got this. All right, you guys. I overtalked. It is a God thing. I can't do it without. I can't do it without. All right, you guys, be faithful, be fearless. Find out why I say that. Go to katedalleyradio.com. By the way, go get Cardio Miracle. Literally drink it all the time. Delivers vitamin C to you in the winter. Okay, delivers it all the time, but in the winter right now, crucial. Delivers it all day to my system, minerals to my system, nitric oxide to my system. This is why I feel great today, right? I'm losing weight. I'm sipping on this all day. I'm losing weight. And, the Christmas 10, Christmas 15, whatever. And go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. Why? Because you can get some antibiotics for bacterial things. I don't believe virus is a thing, but bacterial things. Also, you can get ivermectin and mebendazole and fembendazole, and you can start doing cleanses because we're getting inundated with horrible health. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. Get the scripts. They do it they have doctors in house that can write the scripts, and you don't have to find a doctor. So you can save that money and you can just get it sent to your door. It's so easy and so simple, and I love it. Okay. Also, make sure that you're getting Cardio Miracle. Try this out. There's a guarantee on it. This is so worth it. I'm losing weight doing this every day, all day. I'm serious. I'm just sipping on it all day. I love it. And also go to my website, support my sponsors, and keep me out there. Keep me out there, because I'm afraid if somebody like me isn't out there, because I've seen it. Makes me want to cry. You don't realize how much you're being lied to. And there aren't enough good people that will do the research and really analyze things for common sense and logic. There just isn't. There just isn't. And I'm telling you that as a friend. I'm telling you that as a friend. Love you guys. All right. I'll see you on Monday. I'll talk to you later. Go to katedalleyradio.com and katetalks.myshopify.com.